I'll call this meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. That's good.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting on April 12th.
I move to approve. Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting April 12th. Do we vote?
Nope, that's good.
Okay. Approval of general funds vouchers 78552 through 78640 and wire transfers 202104432 through 202104484.
I move to approve. Second.
Probably moved and seconded. Any public comments?
Do you have any over there?
No.
Awesome. All right, now the spotlight on education.
Okay, so we tabled this one because of last meeting, but we're on for tonight. So we have Ms. Watson and Mr. Larson as well. So Mrs. Watson and Mr. Larson are going to be doing a little demo. So I believe we're getting up and moving, correct?
Yes. We're going to take you on a field trip if you're okay with that. Just because we can't really bring a plasma cutter down here and Dr. Ernst would be mad about the mess. So we won't. But we'll take you down to the shop. Mr. Larson is getting everything set up. We're going to show you two main things tonight. So we've had some really cool things that we've been able to do in our department. So we're going to show you a plasma cutter, which is part of our welding program, and the new software that we have to go along with that, and then a hydroponic system that we have in the ag room. So we'll head that way.
So just so everyone is aware, I'm going to stop the recording so we don't have to carry it down there and people just listen to random noises while we're down there. So it'll stop.
New business A.
All right, we're back.
Yeah.
Back up and running. Yep. New business A.
Go ahead, Josh.
Okay. So just review of COVID-19 stuff. Just wanted to share just a little bit exclusion numbers. We had a couple, no kiddos right before we dropped or had turned the masks to optional. We had a couple family members that tested positive, so we had a couple kids out. Then the following week it was pretty quiet, and today we had our first student that tested positive. So it's still pretty similar to what we were at before, before the decision to go optional masks. So as of right now, things are still going pretty similar to what they were prior to. So we're overall we're in a good place. Plan to still have the graduation ceremony on the 21st, and then we're doing the senior awards and the baccalaureate programs on, what date is that, Mr. Gillis? Sorry, put you on the spot.
20th.
The 20th. Thank you.
Graduation's 21st.
Yep. So we're gonna do 7 o'clock baccalaureate and then 7:30 senior awards. So, and we started opening up to we're having a couple field trips at the elementary, just with the same cohorted groups. We have a group going to
D.D. Kennedy
Park
and then Interstate Park.
and Interstate. So all outdoors and all same cohorted groups. So and those were really the only two things that I wanted to share, just kind of a couple updates.
Okay. Now we'll move on to new business B, official vote of the new school board members.
And we can skip that one, that was done last time. So we're on to C, new business.
Reorganization of the school board. Does anybody have any suggestions or want to change anything?
Unless Nettie does.
Yeah.
No.
Skip's gonna take, yeah.
He's gonna take the treasurer role.
Should give it to him. Well, if anybody wants to change anything, we can.
Good by me.
I'm happy.
I'm fine.
Okay. All right, things stay the same. Next item of business is the approval of our resignations.
Okay, so we have a couple resignations.
Feels like Act 10 days again.
It is, unfortunately.
So you want me to read them? We'll go one by one, or do them all together, or how do you want to do it?
That's up to you.
Well, let's read them out, and then at the end we'll do a motion on all of them.
Okay, so we have, you want me to read them?
Go. Well, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
I'll read them or you read them, it doesn't matter.
Ann Miner, who's been here 36 years in the district, has decided to retire. So congratulations to her, and thank you to all of her years in service in the district. Mr. Sargent has submitted his official letter of resignation. He's been here 22 years in the district. Jason Kirk submitted his letter of resignation, 11 years of service in the district. Pete Paulson, high school wrestling coach, has been a wrestling coach for 22 years in different capacities, but on the Clear Lake wrestling coaching staff. Janine Smetna submitted her letter of resignation. This is 2 years of service in the district. And then Mr. Rosine, just in his capacity of athletic director, and he's served, I believe, 8 years in the district as athletic director. So I'd like to thank all those individuals for their time and service to the Clear Lake School District. And then all of those letters of resignations are included in the board packets as well.
Okay. I guess last meeting I said I was going to read through all these, so here we go. Dear Josh and the Clear Lake School Board, this letter is my official resignation to you and the school district of Clear Lake. My last day of work will be June 4th. On that day, I will officially retire. I wanted to take this opportunity to say that I've greatly enjoyed working with the school district of Clear Lake for the last 36 years. I have enjoyed teaching and coaching the students of Clear Lake and watching them grow up to become wonderful and successful people. When you stay around as long as I have, it is fun to teach their children as well. I have also been lucky to work with such great teachers and coaches through the years, who I will miss very much. Sincerely, Ann Miner. The next letter is from Jason Sargent. Dear Mr. Ernst, Dr. Ernst and Clear Lake School Board, I am writing this letter to inform you that I will be unable to continue as math teacher and coach in the Clear Lake School District at the end of the 2021 school year. This was not an easy decision to make, as I have enjoyed working in the district and community the past 22 years. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to serve students, staff, and parents in Clear Lake. I have enjoyed all my experiences here for the past 22 years and will miss several aspects of my role in the district over the years. Thank you for your time and professionalism. And then Jason Kirk, to whom it may concern, I'd like to inform you that I am resigning from my position as custodian effective June 4th. I'll do everything I can to complete my current tasks and train other team members to take over my duties. Next one, Peter Paulson. I'd like to respectfully submit my resignation as head wrestling coach. Thank you for all your support. If you need me to help with the transition, I'm happy to do so. And then Janine, yep. I am writing to notify you my resignation as special education teacher for the Clear Lake School District, effective at the end of my contract. It was a difficult decision to leave, but I have accepted a position in the district that my grandchildren will be attending. With this move, I look forward to spending more time with my family. I'm grateful for the opportunities I was given, and I will miss all of my colleagues and my students. I can't think of a better place to have been to navigate through this past year. I appreciate all the support I was given to create a class where my students could learn the skills needed as they transition to life post-high school. I am sad I won't be able to see them complete their studies at WITC next year, but I am confident they will do Clear Lake proud. If I can be of any assistance with the transition, I would be happy to help. Sincerely, Janine. And then Dale Rosine. Dear Mr. Ernst, please accept this letter of resignation from the athletic director position following the 2021 school year. I appreciate and am very grateful the district believed in me to serve the district in this capacity for the last 8 years. I'm also proud of what was accomplished during my tenure as the AD in Clear Lake. I thank the administration and board for all the support given to me while serving the district as the AD. The decision to leave this role was not made lightly. I wish the new high school admin team the best and will do whatever necessary to make it a smooth transition. I will now look forward to going back to doing one job and doing it to the best of my abilities.
And then I also included Rosemarie Spinell, who was in a non-permanent position in the pre-K, and she wrote a letter as well to express her appreciation.
Okay. Her letter reads, "This letter of appreciation is much overdue. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to return to the classroom this school year. Even though the circumstances were unprecedented, I felt nothing but gratitude for the offer to teach junior kindergarten at the Gaylord Education Center for the 2021 school year. Upon accepting this position, I understood that my commitment was to be for 1 year. Since accepting this teaching obligation, I have come to love this school and everybody inside. Each morning I walk into the building with a sense of pride, a smile on my face, and joy in my heart. I find the staff and the atmosphere within the four walls to be positive and uplifting. As you have probably noticed, I rarely am in a hurry to leave, and when I finally get around to doing so, it's because I know that I'm ready for the next day and whatever may come my way. I have yet to leave the building with heavy shoulders or a sense of overwhelm. Today's teachers are so much more than teachers. No longer are they just responsible for the curriculum in which they teach. They are now caregivers, social workers, healthcare providers, and mentors to so many of their children, their students. Your staff definitely has broad shoulders and is reflective in the work, and it is reflective in the work that they do each day. They carry themselves with a sense of pride and dedication to both the profession and the children in their care. It's with a heavy heart that I will leave my junior kindergarten position in June. Leaving one's lifelong profession is not easy, especially if your heart still belongs to the children in which you serve. I told myself that I would retire from teaching when I no longer felt the passion, or I no longer sit crisscross applesauce. Unfortunately, I retired too early, for I still have the desire and still can sit on the floor with my legs crossed. That being said, should your elementary building need additional help in the 21-22 school year, I'm very much open to returning. During the EE meeting, I briefly spoke about the possibility of returning as an interventionist. With the lingering education effects of COVID-19, I am interested in and very much would like the opportunity to teach small groups of children exhibiting achievement gaps in reading, writing, and or math to help them achieve benchmark goals. I'm certain that this year's teachers were faced with a daunting situation when the children returned to the classroom after missing months of direct instruction. Most, but not all, children bounced back and the test scores reflected their resilience. Sadly for some, that was not the case. It is this group of young children that I wish to work with to help ensure them a bright and deserving future. Again, I want to thank you for the opportunity of being part of the Gaylord Nelson Education Center teaching staff during the 2021 school year. I did my best to foster the love of learning and to provide a positive first-year school experience to the class of the 2034 Warriors. In closing, I ask that you and the administration team ponder my request, and I look forward to the possibility of returning to Clear Lake in the upcoming school year. Respectfully, so I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we approve the resignations. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. The next item of business is our approval of hires.
Okay, so we've been in the process of hiring. So first we have Brian Erdrich. He'll be replacing Mr. Hughes as ELA teacher here in the high school. Seth Amundsen, I think I pronounced that right. Amundsen, PE hire. And then Chad Eggert, also PE hire. So we had two PE positions to fill. Kinsey Fleming has accepted the position for the junior senior high school custodian, a part-time position. Savannah Novak for the elementary custodian, the part-time position. And that should be Mitch Anderson. That was a misprint. There should be no B at the end of his name, but for junior senior high school custodian. So those are the hires that we have for tonight.
I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the new hires.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the new hires. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes. Next item of business is the review of staff exclusions, March 30th, April 30th.
Okay. So I just wanted to put this one on the agenda for you guys to consider. So we had the April 30th date was the 2-week period after the vaccination rollout. But prior in between time, we were still excluding faculty. So we had not 4 total people, but 4 total days. I think it was two with 3 different people that had those days within that time period. So just asking you guys to consider, do we, because they didn't fall under the FFCRA extended leave language that we put into place. So wanted to talk through that and see if you guys wanted to consider, having the district cover those 4 days, just because it fell within that time period. Does that make sense? Yeah. So we didn't allow for the entire 2-week period for the vaccination for those individuals that wanted to be vaccinated. But yet we were still excluding people, so we didn't give them the full time frame to cover those days. Does that make sense or no? No. So we had April 30th, so we vaccinated the 16th, and then in order to be exempt from the exclusion period, you had to wait the 2-week time period. So then the 2-week time period was April 30th, and we were still excluding people during that time, even though we didn't wait, we weren't at the time frame of the 2-week vaccination period. So I don't believe it's fair to exclude those individuals and ask them to take their sick leave, because we were excluding them and forcing them out, but we didn't allow for the time frame for the vaccine rollout to take place in order for
right.
Does that make sense?
They were excluded.
Yeah,
Right.
I didn't articulate that well. I apologize.
But
So are you talking 4 days times 3 people, or
Nope.
4 days?
3 people, 4 total days. One person, the first person had 1 day, the second person had 1 day, and then we had 1 staff member with two days in that time period. Now we're in a place where it was your choice whether or not you got vaccinated, but if you did get vaccinated, then we wouldn't force anyone out of the district. They don't have to be excluded during this time frame anymore after April 30th.
Go ahead, I guess, Josh, we don't need a motion for that.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Next item of business then is the approval of the 21-22 health and dental insurance renewal.
Okay, so I put the renewals in there. We had 2 very good renewals. The health insurance renewal was 0%, which is, that's the big ticket item. That was great. The dental was 4%, so it was a small increase on the dental as well. So both are great health and dental renewals. So nothing changes to the health and dental insurance. I put it in there just for you guys to see, but the health is 0 and the dental is 4%.
I move to approve.
Second.
Probably moved and seconded to approve the health and dental insurance renewals. All in favor? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item of business is the approval of the 2021-2022 junior senior high student handbook.
Okay. So we have the printed off document. The handbook's not in there. They're just, and I'll let Mr. Gillis share on this one, but they're only dates and names changes, with the exception of the 2 pieces of paper that are in front of you. We're looking to change the cell phone, the current cell phone policy that we have in place. Mr. Gillis, go for it.
I work closely with a principal at Portage High School who went to a no cell phones kind of policy, and what we're seeing is now that the district has provided Chromebooks for all students, we just don't think it's necessary for phones to be part of class time anymore. They're just more of a distraction than anything. I work with the parents when they come to orientation meetings, and I always remind parents that you really don't need a cell phone in school. We still answer the phone here in the high school office, and we still get emergency messages to kids, and they can call home from the office if they need to. So this policy that I'm proposing on the front side, the black writing, updates the writing that's on the back side in blue. That's the current language, and the front side in black is the updated, shortened, and cleaned up language. We took out things like private pagers and beepers and sleeper pens, so we did some updating as well. So we're hoping to get that approved, and then I can get that in the student handbook, and I can get that off to the printing company, and then the new principal won't have to deal with that. It'll be done for them already.
And the biggest change or differences between the new policy versus the old policies is the cell phones won't be allowed. They'll only be allowed in lockers on person if you can't see them or hear them, so that the students will they'll be able to access their phones before and after school and then during lunch period. So no longer during passing times or even in classrooms. So there's certainly going to be some learning curve, or some growing pains, I should say, with it. I think at the beginning of next year until it's fully implemented, and
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll have some growing pains at the beginning of the year.
Didn't make any changes to the offenses that the next person is dealing with issues.
Why don't we just make this official tomorrow and have Nick get it all lined up?
Might as well put my stamp on it.
All right, we're looking for approval of, this is the only change then, Josh?
Yeah, outside of the kind of the typical dates and names.
There's a staff list at the end of the handbook that we aren't done filling all positions yet, so those will need to be updated.
Yep.
And a couple dates in the very front yet that we don't have knocked out yet.
I move to approve the junior, senior high student handbook.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded to approve the handbook with the electronic device change. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. The next item of business is the approval of the 2021-2022 district calendar.
Okay, so I printed them off in there for you. So the first one is the kind of traditional calendar. What we've done most closely to pretty much what we've done in the past. And then the second one, at the very top, it's got red font, says spring break option. So those are the two proposals that we're bringing. We surveyed the staff, and then we also surveyed the family. The majority of we had almost 60% of the staff were in favor of moving toward a spring break, and then about 40% were not in favor. So that was internal survey. The external survey to the parents, just a hair over 55% were in favor, and then we were at just about 28% that were not in favor, and then we had like 17% kind of ballpark that were neutral and didn't care. So both surveys, the majority, which we figured it would be, pretty similar, pretty close, but the majority of both internal and external surveys, the majority were in favor of a spring break option. So with that, then we looked at just the two different options. You'll see in order for the spring break option, that the big difference, just because it wasn't as easy as just saying, do we want a spring break or do we not want a spring break? You still have to meet the instructional needs of the students, like what the minutes are, and then also you have three different contracts. You have the teaching staff contracts, and then you have the support staff contracts that aren't year-round contracts, and then you have the transportation contracts. So to try to keep the contracts as close as possible, we had to increase the in-service days on the spring break. So there's two additional in-service days to keep the teacher contracts where they're currently at. And then the trainings that we provide, a lot of our support staff will be able to do during the in-service time. So we'll be able to utilize one of those in-service days for the different trainings that we do, rather than asking people to come in. Now it's just part of the deal. So the two different calendar items too. The spring break option would still be the 85 contract days, but then you include the parent-teacher conferences, which brings it to 188. The student contact days would be 175 for the spring break option, but we would increase 6 additional minutes at the front end of the school calendar day of the day, and then that would cover the actual minutes that were increasing, would increase the amount of instructional time. So, and then you'll also see in the old calendar, like what we do this year, we have more sprinkled in. We have a sprinkled day in February where we have no school, and then we have 2 days around Easter time. In the spring break option, we have the Good Friday still as a no school day, and then we're able to shift those those other 3 days of no school days to that March date, the week of the March 14th for the spring break option. And then with the 2 additional in-service days, then we added those 2 extra days to the spring break option.
So the majority of the people said the spring break option is better?
The majority internal and external.
Pretty close though.
It was close, yeah. Internal, it was more, both were, the majority said were in favor of it, but it was close.
Sounds like a no-brainer then, huh?
Yeah, any questions?
So teachers would come one day earlier in August with the spring break one, so they would come back on a Friday versus a Monday.
For next year, for the
For next-
in-service
for
days?
this fall, yeah.
Yep.
They'd stay one day later.
And then this June 6th date is also an in-service date.
Then my only other question, we talked about this a little bit, is graduation on Memorial Day weekend.
The 27th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Gills or Mr. Peterson, do you guys remember the conversation regarding graduation?
Seems like it puts
The
it.
20th versus the
longer than
27th.
typical.
What aspect of it?
It would be Friday of Memorial Day weekend is how it's on the calendars right now.
Yeah,
Why did we move it back a week?
I don't know.
Okay.
You're talking
You
about
mean
both
this year's
calendars.
calendar or
This
next
this
year's?
one
No.
we're looking to approve.
Next year's.
Typically, it would be like the 19th, 20th, and now we're
Yeah.
putting it to the Friday of Memorial Day weekend, a long holiday weekend.
It's traditionally been the Sunday before Memorial Weekend.
Right.
But here it's Memorial Day weekend.
Yep.
When is Memorial Day weekend, the 3rd?
The 30th.
30th.
27th would start it,
Right.
and then there'd be no school. I mean, is there a reason that graduation couldn't be the week before, the 19th, 20th versus the 26th, 27th?
I think over the years, I mean, I just know years past, it was discussed that our graduation has been that Sunday before Memorial, and it's been that way since, probably
Right.
1970s or
Right.
something like that. And then I think when
We changed it to
when the
Friday.
calendar changed, and we used to start school around August 20th, and we'd get done Memorial Day, or the week after Memorial Day. And I think when the school calendar on 2000, the state made us start September 1st, and now school goes much later, but we never moved the
There was
graduation
no adjustment
date.
to the
And so I know
graduation.
when I was high school principal, we discussed that, and one year we actually moved it later to try that, and it got moved back. So there's been different things talked about, but I just know that's going way back to some of the discussion that we had back then.
My only concern is the holiday weekend. I think that's a big change.
I think some people like it because it's a holiday weekend.
Well, this year it'd be that weekend, right, isn't it?
That's
the
it'll be that way this year,
the-
yeah.
No,
No.
it's the
No.
21st this
21st.
year.
Oh, yeah, we're a week early, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, normally, yeah.
So do we have the levity now again to go ahead and start school earlier again?
Not yet, but
Not
it
yet.
sounds like it might be coming.
We talked about it.
Yep.
So is it, their graduation will be really a week later
This
Next
year?
year? next year?
Compared to
year it's
this
the
year to
21st,
next year,
next
yeah.
year it's the
It's 1 week
27th.
later.
This year it's a week later than it normally would have been, and this, because it would have been normally this weekend.
Right.
On the original calendar, it was this weekend.
Yeah.
Right,
For
it was
whatever reason.
originally Sunday,
Yeah,
yeah.
actually 2 weeks before Memorial.
Well, maybe we can address that when we get to next year's calendar and try to keep it before Memorial Day, if that's what our concern is.
Well, that's
that's what we're
looking
doing
at,
right
our
now.
Next year calendar
So we
we're
could-
approving.
Oh,
For
this
ne-
next year, not. I was
Right,
thinking-
I'm not talking this year, 'cause that's already set. Next year, we're saying graduation will be on Memorial Day weekend,
28, 29.
It'll be on the 27th.
Right.
27th
on
of
the
2022.
Of May.
I thought somebody just said we were the 21st and 22nd.
This year,
That's what it is
2021
this year.
graduation
This
is,
year, okay, I'm just getting,
Yep.
okay. Next week.
yep.
Friday.
You're just asking band people to stay around and you're switching
Right.
it to a holiday. I
Yeah.
just think that's a pretty major change.
Yeah.
You would think moving it to Friday night was a major change.
Right,
Which-
yeah, so we're moving it to Friday night and adding,
But we might hang on to that, right? Or
Yeah.
I suppose now we gotta,
I know Prairie Farm always puts it on Memorial Day.
Ed, do we want to move the senior graduation then to the 20th, I guess is the question.
Yeah, I'd
That's kind of what
prefer
everybody's
that.
saying.
Is there some contact days that we have to do something different with for those students? No?
No.
That's pretty easy to change then, I guess.
is it easy to change? If we just did it on the 20th?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
this is, yep,
This
we
is
would
still-
approve it.
This is still an issue.
Oh,
And then, question about that last in-service on the 6th.
Yep,
Is that just there just to get the proper, to fill contract days?
yeah.
Well, wouldn't it be wiser to use that someplace else where we could what are we doing what would we doing on Monday?
So we talked about the possibility of, we have one opt-out in-service day, so we talked about, do we keep the opt-out in February, or do we have the opt-out in June? We certainly could. I feel like it gives you the option of coming in and cleaning out your room anyway, or if we move the opt-out, you could opt out in the June in-service date. So
In order to opt out, they have to do in-service
yeah.
time of their own that they documented. a
have to
certain amount of
fulfill
time.
professional development hours
One
that are,
day per year.
yep.
One in-service day per year.
Is it our in-service day statute?
No. We just are doing contract days. We have the thought behind the 27th of August and then the June 6th, rather than adjusting everybody's contract, and then in order to get the 188, we had to add 2 in-service dates.
We're also probably the only district around that doesn't have at least 3 days in the front end and have an in-service.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that the beginning prep would be, I don't know, it's more advantageous.
Yeah, and that's why we added the one.
3.
Yep. We usually have 2, typically we have 2 in-service days in August.
Yeah.
And they're quite full.
What's that?
And they're quite full.
Yep.
We try to ensure that we get enough teacher work time to get ready for the year, but we've also got all these meetings we have to hold as far as the required, health stuff, and EpiPen training and all those kinds of things. So they get full in a hurry.
Well, that's the most discussion we've ever had about a calendar.
Did we actually make a decision on graduation?
Yeah, let's go ahead and move it back. I think Teddy's got a good
Everybody's
one.
good?
yeah, I'd prefer, if I have a kid graduating, I'd prefer it wasn't Memorial Day weekend.
I'm the opposite, but I'm not
I was gonna say, I've heard both
I'm like, if
ways.
family has to
Both
come in,
sides.
they're all coming, that's a better weekend, but,
On both sides.
Sure the kids
We should
vote?
ask people.
yeah. we have
Yeah, you should put out a survey.
Yeah. Home phone.
No, I mean, that weekend, I actually like Friday night. I think it's, personally,
All right, so we're shifting to the 20th, Friday, the 20th
I'd like
for
to.
graduation?
Go
Okay.
ahead.
One change at a time.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm fine, we only have-
I don't know.
And what,
So the seniors can thank us later.
yeah.
Yeah.
And are you guys moving on the spring break option or the no spring break option?
I think the spring break option if,
If that's
well,
what they want.
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Do you need a motion on that?
Good
Oh,
then.
yeah.
Good? All right.
All right, so do we want to make an approval with those changes? I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the spring break calendar as written, except moving graduation up 1 week to the 20th of May.
Second?
And probably move in second to approve the 21-22 sports district calendar with changes. All in favor, signify by saying aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Next item is the approval of 21-22 support staff contracts.
So this is just the contracts, if you guys recall, this just guarantees everybody employment for next year. It's not, this does not include the 21-22 salary adjustments.
And I'll entertain a motion.
Move to,
Move to approve.
second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the 21-22 sports staff contracts. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item is the approval of the 21-22 teacher contracts.
So same thing. The only exception with that is I'll be sharing the proposal for next year with the teacher compensation model and that kind of plan for the future. But as of right now, just moving forward with contracts with no salary adjustments for next year.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded to approve the 21-22 teacher contracts. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item of business is the approval of the 21-22 administration contracts.
So same thing, the only exception there is you guys previously approved Brian Melberg's contract already, so this is just referring to my contract and Mr. Peterson's contract.
I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded to approve the 21-22 administration contracts. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. And now the approval of the 21 summer school contracts.
Okay, so exciting to do this. We didn't get to do this last year, but the summer school, all the support staff contracts, and then the teacher contracts for summer school for this year.
You get it now? You doing good?
Yes, did great. Got a great response.
I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve summer school contract?
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded to approve the summer school contracts. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item of business is the consideration approval of the 21-22 teacher compensation model.
Okay, so a presentation that I want to share with you, but before we do that, I should have put it first, but so after the calendars, I have the proposed sick and personal leave, so if you want to just skip that for now and go to the timeline. So just to give you kind of what all took place as far as the planning process. We had a steering committee. I listed all the names that are in red. I think your guys' color copy in that as well. So we started back in October 14th, and worked through just the teacher compensation planning. We tried to get I tried to get a steering committee that was a good representation across the district, and that just lays out kind of all the different the dates, all the way until kind of where we're at right now, presenting to you here on May 10th. So it was a lot of time, and I'll go through. Mr. Peterson, could you do me a favor? You pass out those to everybody. And then I have the presentation as well that I'll go through. Okay, and everybody see? Okay, so I'll just share kind of what was shared with the teaching staff, and then just kind of walk you through kind of what the steering committee did, everybody's role, kind of what we ended up, what we decided on, or what we came to as far as what we feel like needs to happen in the Clear Lake School District. So the purpose and the goal of the presentation that I shared with the teaching staff was to just provide clarity on the compensation process and the steering committee. And you guys have been part of the conversations. We knew there was a problem. We know there's a problem. There's clearly the teaching compensation needs to be looked at, and there's a population, the ones that were hired right after Act 10, there's a huge discrepancy, especially with those individuals, but all of the teachers across the district. So we just wanted to provide an avenue of input, to give people input, opportunity to ask questions, opportunity to process through some of the structural changes to the model, and then present a model that we could implement for next year, for 2020, for 21-22, and then also share the long-term plan for the district. We came to the pretty quick conclusion, which I think we all knew, that we had a problem without a solution, and I guess without a solution, the only solution is a referendum in order to that's tied to the teacher salaries in order to come up with a solution that actually worked. And so with that, we still continue to work through it. We realize that that's really the long-term plan is a referendum. We're looking at February of this year to put something in place, but I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. So as far as the steering committee, I broke the district down into 4 categories just to try to get a good representation of people across the district from both buildings. So we had 0 to 5 years, 6 to 10 years, and then 11 to 15 years, and then 16 or more years. And then wanted people from both buildings as well in all 4 of those categories. So individuals with years of experience, the perspective, the building building level perspective, and then district level perspective. So that there's a list of the steering committee that the individuals that were involved in the planning process. And just to give you kind of an idea of what that meant, the 0 to 5 years in the Clear Lake School District, that's about 30% of our staff. 6 to 10 years is about 28%. 11 to 15 years is 10%, and then 16 plus is 32% with total, our total teaching population of 50 total staff members, of certified staff members. So this is what we looked at, and with any compensation model, you want it to be competitive. You want to be able to attract new teachers. You also want to retain quality educators, and you want something that people feel valued. A compensation model that makes people feel valued, and then one. Not necessarily the most important piece, but the most important piece as far as the budget goes is the sustainability. How do you create a plan that's sustainable? Because when we met with the committee, I think any committee can create a great compensation model, but it's how is it sustainable long term? And that was the key to our puzzle. The committee tasks that we wanted to do, the sick and personal leave language were 2 things that were brought up, when we surveyed and when we talked at the listening session with the staff. Those were 2 areas that they wanted us to look at. And then we also wanted to, create a plan that addressed all of those key things: the retention, attracting teachers, sustainability, and then one that promotes growth and development in your district. So I shared with you the timeline, the multiple meetings that we had, working through it. Asked the staff to identify areas of strength and then areas of concern before we started the process. So areas of strength, or things that that really they wanted us to consider as a strength in the district, was the retirement language. That was something that it doesn't attract teachers, but it definitely retains them. Keeps them in the district. We have a very good, a solid retirement language in our handbooks for teachers when they're here for 15 years. We had individuals that addressed just the culture and climate. That was a strength of ours. Really the flexibility within the district, of a small district and the family-like atmosphere. Also wanted us to consider leaving the in lieu of option. That's something that benefits teachers, and that really does attract. When we're having the conversations with new teachers, that $5,000 of in lieu of is a big ticket item to share with, especially the younger teachers, because they're usually on someone else's health insurance until they don't have to be, and usually when they're coming out of college, they fall in that age range. And then there's the strength is that the administration and the board is willing to adjust and to explore new options as a compensation model. Areas of concern, which we all knew, was the discrepancy in pay, the retaining high quality teachers, attracting high quality teachers, and then the lack of transparency post 2012. And that one that really just speaks to that there isn't anything out there to say to teachers, I know where I'm going to be in 10 years. So I think that was something, or I know that's something that multiple individuals shared, that it'd be nice to just have something where we know, in 5 years where am I going to be, or in 10 years what is the salary going to be. And then the leave language was one, specifically the personal days. So like I said, the committee, the realization the steering committee came to very quickly was the problem of, how do we create this without, the budget is something that's open to the public. It's presented at the annual meeting. Like there is no, hidden money that we can shift and shuffle to create a solution to this problem. So it really is a referendum is necessary in order to make the changes. So I've been meeting with Baird. I shared with you guys I had met with Baird prior to the pandemic, and then the pandemic put a screeching halt to that. Talking through a referendum possibly for this year. Then at the board level, we talked about, is this a time where we, probably not the best time to go referendum, so let's put the brakes on it. And now we're at the place where, we're hopefully coming out on the other end of this pandemic, and the February 15th is the option for us for the February 15th, 2022 would be the referendum. And after meeting with Baird, we really would have two questions on the referendum. One specific to facilities, the roof in this building, which we've really truly done our due diligence at saving, and we'll have, this is the 1.5 to 1.7 million is the total cost of the roof, and we won't need all of that money. But I just put it on there because there might be, we might need some money, and not exactly sure, even with the ESSER funds, how much we'll be able to put towards the roof possibly with that. So we may not even need a question on a referendum that's tied to this roof, but most likely we'll probably need something. And then the second piece is the operational referendum. It'd be a recurring referendum tied to teacher salaries, and the proposal that we'll be making would be that second referendum question would have very little impact on the mill rate, which would be a great selling point, a pitch to our community, that we'll be able to do it with very little impact to the taxes. We talked about this already. So these were the kind of the items to consider, are the main variables. The retirement language, that's anywhere from $60,000 to about $100,000 a year that we're paying. You take away that, and that's an easy solution to the problem, but it's not good for anybody to be removing things out of their contract. I think that's a good sales pitch in our community when you have teachers in the district that have stayed for that long. That retirement piece stays in place. We looked at the base wages in the surrounding areas. The base wage, we're pretty competitive as far as looking at the surrounding areas. Obviously, the bigger districts have a little bit better base wages, but overall, we're fairly competitive. Our contract, it has stayed at 188. There's surrounding districts, when you look at their contracts, they've, post Act 10, they've increased the contractual days. They pay a little bit more, but then it's not apples to apples, when they have the number of contract days. Some school districts have more contract days. Like I talked about, in lieu of the health insurance, that should be 2022, the referendum. And then the impact, the pandemic and the impact that it has had on our enrollment is also a piece on our budget. We lost, 40 to 50 kids to homeschooling, which is having going to have a long-term effect on our budget in a district of 600 or 5. I think we're at 595 right now. So that 3-year average of our budget and our enrollment is going to have, play a factor. And then the costs associated with transitioning into the 21-22 model. Just the transition into the model is going to be quite costly to the district. So here's the salary structure that we looked at. Column A is bachelors, and column B, or the second column, is masters. So this would be the certified teachers. So for the next year, we kind of had to create how can we create a plan that's sustainable and transition people in for next year, but not make huge changes that would break the bank for our budget. So we would transition staff in whatever level they're at. We'd transition them to the closest level, to bounce them, multiple cells, and then depending on how many years of service they've been in the district, then they would move up a certain amount of cells. So I'll show you So the transition in, the 0 to 3 year people, after transitioning into the cells, they would have, no additional movement. 4 to 5 year individuals would transition into the model, and then they would have an additional 1 to 2 lane advancement. 6 to 10 years would be into the model, and then they would transition 3 to 4 year lane in cells. 11 to 17 would be 2 to 3 lane advancements, and then 18 years plus would either transition 1 or 2 cells depending on how they move into the model. So here, just to give you an example, so like employee number 1, color's not as good, but employee number 1, if this is their current salary in 2020-21, if they make $40,107 with 1 year of service and a bachelor's, they would transition into the model, and then they would move up 1 cell, so then they would be at the $41,910 range. And then employee number 2, just to give you some examples of where they would be at. This is their current salary, $43,350. They've been in the district for 8 years. They have a bachelor's, so they would transition in level D here in bachelor's, and then they would move up 1, 2, and then they go into the cell range of 45,900. And then employee 3 has been in the district 14 years. They transition here, and then they'd move up 1, and then they'd move into the second level G cell. And then the last scenario is employee number 4. So I just shared this with the staff, and just to give you kind of an idea of how that transition process would look. Any questions with that? Yeah.
So the levels A through Z are basically years, right?
We didn't, and that's what everyone, and we didn't make them years intentionally, just because the transition into the model isn't years. So they do, once everybody's in, they really do equate to years. But the thought behind making them letters was for the first year, because we don't know about the referendum, and we don't know where, how that's going to play out. We just wanted to say, let's create them with letters, even though it probably caused more questions. But we wanted people to know that we don't have the ability to transition everyone into the whatever years of service that they're in, just because we wouldn't be able to sustain that. So the thought was, let's create letters and then transition everybody into the closest possible level or cell that they're associated with without going down. So they would always go up. So the first year, everyone, even the ones with no transition, would it increase more than 2%. Does that make sense?
Is there a way to skip levels, or is it just basically set on your level? No matter what, you start out next year at the next level?
Yeah, with not being able to have, with a referendum, we didn't have any creativity or flexibility with transitioning, more
Right.
than what we have. Just to give you an idea, or maybe I don't have that on here, but just the transition in is going to cost, over $65,000 for the district, just to get the transition in, and people adjusted that little bit. So there really wasn't a whole lot of flexibility, because we wouldn't be able to sustain it long term unless we have a referendum. And if we pass a referendum, then we'll be able to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, now we have a referendum. The first year transition in is already set, and we can look at 2 to 3 years out of how do we transition people even more accordingly to the cells, or get people closer to their years of service.
Right.
Maybe not hit exactly, but to move in that direction. Did you have something, Greg?
Yeah, Josh, $60,000 is what it is going to cost us to get into it. Now, fast forward.
I think it's 95.
Yeah, I think it was higher than that.
I think it's 95 if we look back at the next
Yeah.
page. So it's 95 to transition in, 65 average yearly after that.
Yep, so 95 includes with a 10% a co-curricular increase. So the 95 is, the total. What we normally do for like a 2% increase,
For everything.
it's, like 40 to 50,000, and then the transition on top of it. So it is going to be closer to, with the total what we're looking at for total next year is about 100,000, transitioning into the model.
So fast forward 15 years, the older generation of teachers make their way off of this schedule. The new ones are going according to their years. What's the cost when that teeter top, kind of balances out? How much more money is it to have everybody on their right level?
Say that one more time.
Well, there's going to be a number of teachers that aren't at the level that corresponds with their years of service.
It's almost everybody.
Right. So if we go 15 years down the road, when we look at our employees, more of them will be aligned with the correct correlation between the years and their levels. How much more is that going to cost us at that time? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
Or maybe an easier way to ask it would be, what if we did just go in by years? What would that actually cost us?
if we put everyone at their years of,
Yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head, but we wouldn't even be able to sustain it for 1 year.
Right, but I'm just wondering what that number is when this thing equalizes out, what kind of dollars we're talking, I guess, so.
Yeah, I guess to answer your first question, I mean, theoretically, you would, the only ones that really are at the appropriate, like, cell range would be your, like, 1 and 2 year hires.
Right.
And then as they move, theoretically, then you'd have people retiring and you'd be hiring new people out of college. So then it would be, just attrition would help offset your budget. You'd be, having people that were on the high end of the salary retire, and then you'd be hiring new individuals at the bottom end of the salary, theoretically. But education is, as we all know, is drastically changing right now. It's becoming more and more of a transient profession, and people are moving in and out of the district, and so I don't know if I can I don't even know how to answer that one, but
I'm just looking at, from a sustainability standpoint, that's, I guess, where I was coming from with it.
yeah, sustainability. I mean, like I said, I think the referendum piece is the key piece to the puzzle. I mean, because there are also other variables at play, that none of us know, like if enrollment. If we have declining enrollment, then that's going to affect your budget. If you have increasing enrollment, that's going to affect your budget positively. Open enrollment obviously is a piece to that puzzle, and then obviously the budget itself that comes from the state and how that what they end up allocating per pupil. So there are a couple moving pieces of the puzzle that none of us would ever, that we just don't know. But based off the best. Looking at kind of what we have now, we have to go referendum in order to get people closer to where to have it closer aligned with their years of service. We have individuals in the Act 10, like post Act 10, that were hired like 9 years of service, and they're still at the base wage salary, as you guys know.
So would they get up to their right level?
They won't get out. Nobody's going to get it to the right level, but they get the most. They get like the 3 to 4 cell jump more than everybody else. I think if you sat down with an unbiased view of it, those are the individuals that were compromised the most. Then the second tier after those individuals would be probably the second most compromised. Then the higher range, and then obviously the newbies, aren't compromised. The ones that were just hired at the base wage that are more competitive when you look at the surrounding areas. We also are including master's degree would be $1,000 non-base building compensation. The national board, the 316, and then any additional licensures that's approved by administration would all be $1,000 base building that would be given to individuals as well. Little bit of creativity. We didn't have much flexibility, but we looked at longevity pay, $250 non-base billing that individuals would receive after year 3, after year 10, 20, and 25. Those would be longevity pay with, like I said, non-base building pay.
Where did that come from, Josh?
What's that?
Where did that come from?
It just nowhere. I mean, when we were reviewing other compensation models, and that one kind of looked unique, and it gives us the flexibility to create a little bit more compensation, but then if something were to happen where we had to, we wouldn't, that'd be the first place where we could look at where we wouldn't have to freeze salaries that we could pull from, in the event that like a referendum doesn't get passed.
So that's my question. So if we put this into effect 2021, 22, next school year starting in September, referendum doesn't pass, then where are we sitting?
That's why we created this. I mean, it's still a big increase, but I think it's sustainable long term for us. It's not ideal because we won't be able to adjust people accordingly, and it'll only be the one-time adjustment would be for next year, and that's it.
If the referendum doesn't pass, but if it does pass, then we go ahead and continue stepping. Is that what you're saying, John?
Then we go back to the drawing board and we say, do we want to continue with this model and just make the adjustments accordingly and look at, the next 2 to 3 years as far as adjustments for cells for everyone?
So we can make this model work for 2-3 years. It'd be tight, and some of these little extra things might need to change, but we could make this work without a referendum.
Yeah, correct.
And then if we get a referendum, we come back and kind of look at the levels and maybe we could change it a little bit more.
Yeah, correct. The thing with this though is this isn't a solution.
Right.
And that'd be, my fear with people listening to think, well, they can do it without the referendum, they can do this. This is only the one-time adjustment where we have individuals that need multiple adjustments, and in order to do that, a referendum has to take place. But this was our short-term solution to prove to the teaching staff that we're trying to do our best effort with what we have. Even this will be a stretch with, our budget, but we'll definitely be able to make it happen for this year, and even offset some of the costs with the ESSER fund if we have to for the following year if we had to. So the longevity, so you can see just some of the the structures that the costs that it would just the transition into the model, the salary structure alone with the co-curricular increase of the 10%, because those haven't been adjusted in a long time. That'd be about $95,000.
You wouldn't have to totally go back to the drawing board, because like the salary structure you created is pretty spot on as far as starting pay, just that A through Z. It's just how we put people on that structure is where you're saying you have to go back to the drawing board.
The model itself is I think everyone would agree, if you took it out of even the context of like Clear Lake, if you just looked at it, it's a fine model, I think, But the issue is the transition in, and then how do we adjust people? That's the problem, not the model.
No, when you said go back to the drawing board, I'm like, I don't think you have to go all the way back. It's just re-looking at how you're using the
as a
model.
committee, we talked about that we would, we're open to anything. If we have a referendum, then you have a lot more creativity and you have a lot more flexibility to look at. Do we want just a kind of a simple plan like we have, or do we set some things up in place where we can include some professional development for some individuals to try to incentivize some of that and build capacity within house while adjusting people's salary by promoting some of that, building capacity within. If there's some leadership roles that we want to, try to incorporate that a lot of people are already doing in the district, but even incorporate more, but then to tie it to salaries too, we have that flexibility. So at the very least, if we pass a referendum, we have the flexibility to do more than what we have here. This was kind of the thought or the conversation. Okay, so then we talked about the sick and personal leave. So just kind of, I gave them in a nutshell the sick leave revisions. Most of the sick leave language stayed the same. The issue wasn't really necessarily with the sick leave. We did increase the $83.10 rate. We increased, whether the proposal is to increase that to $100 a day buyback. So when they get those days bought back, it's instead of the $83.10, it's $100 per day. That is more aligned with what the substitute rate is, which is how it was created initially. The personal leave, the big thing the main thing is the days where individuals had to be out for their own time, their own true personal leave. They had to pay. They had to pay the $83 plus the $5. I'm sorry, the 100 and what is it? 105 plus 100 plus the 5.
Yeah.
Right. So total 105. Thank you. So what we did, we took that off the table, and we did. Everybody's going to get one paid personal leave day during each employment year. Personal leave may be accrued to a maximum of 5 days, and then and for 4 personal days may be accrued over the next school year. At the end of each school year, the district shall buy back 1 personal day to those individual teachers who have accrued the maximum of 5. And then the individual teachers who have accrued the maximum of 5 personal days shall be given the option. So you can either get it bought back, or the reason this was decided to have it shifted into the sick leave. We had a teacher brought up, well, what if you're a young teacher that wants bank those days and have and possibly thinking about having more kids or something like that. So it gives them the flexibility to do what they want with those days. So it takes away the teaching staff having to pay the $105 when they take those number was it the number 2s? Number 2 days. Thank you. So I think that was well received. It seemed like maybe Mrs. Anderson or Mrs. Meyer can speak to that. It seemed like it was well received from the teaching staff as far as doing, trying to put something in place that reflected what they were
So if a teacher knew they
requesting.
wanted to take a vacation the next year or in a couple of years, they could start saving these personal days.
They could, yeah. And there's still some, like in the I put the language, the proposed language in your board packets. There is some. It needs administrative approval. Like it can't be on certain, like in-service days, just like the previous language. And we can't have so many people out of the district at the time. But we do what we're still currently doing is do our best to try to honor those days as best as we, honor those requests as best as we can. Excuse me. Okay, I think I hit everything. So, just wanted to open it up for questions. And maybe before questions, I did want to thank the steering committee. Everyone was hesitant to present to the teaching staff because it wasn't. I feel like it proved that we're trying to do our best with what we have, but it certainly wasn't what everybody wanted. I mean, obviously, it isn't. I mean, without a referendum, we can't provide, the appropriate adjustments and the appropriate compensation model to reflect all the key pieces that we wanted to address in the compensation model. But I feel like there was a lot of work put into it. I feel like the teaching staff really did a nice job, talking through concerns and talking through ideas, and it was an impossible task to try to create something that a compensation model that the teaching staff deserves, and then to try to get everyone in the appropriate spot. It was, like I said, it was impossible. So appreciate that there was a lot of time and effort put into it, and I feel like it's a plan that isn't the best plan, but it's the best plan that we could create. I think it proves to the teaching staff that we're trying to do our best with what we have. So the next step is move and hopefully pass a referendum, and then we'll be able to move in the direction that we want to. So when I met with Baird, based off of just the numbers that I gave you, the mill rate for the first 2 years would go just a hair over $10. In the last 6 years, we've been able to drop the mill rate about a nickel kind of each year, kind of ballpark. So we've been in the mid to high 9s for mill rate every year. So the first 2 years, if we did pass this referendum, the mill rate would go into the low $10, and then it would drop back into the high $9 range. I have a meeting at the end of this month to look at to try to iron out some of the details with the mill rate and what it actually would be based on if we use the ESSER fund money, if we can use the ESSER fund money for the roof in this building, if not, and how that would all work out. So Once we're at that point, we'll have actual exact numbers, and then when we go to the, when we get ready to move forward, we'll be able to communicate that to the stakeholders, and then it's no longer in our hands. It's up to them if they want to pass the referendum or not. I think one thing that you're seeing, though, it's without a doubt that we're losing good teachers. And I don't think it's because of what we got going on in the district. It's because we aren't, we can't compete with, I mean, you read all of the letters, the resignation letters, and I know you guys have had conversations with staff members, and every conversation, most of the conversations that I've had, it's been a difficult decision for them to leave the Clear Lake district because they like it here, and some of the neighboring districts just can pay more, and we're losing good teachers because of it, because we're not competitive, and we're competitive at the base wage, but throughout our model we're not competitive. So, any questions?
Would we just throw this out there? The thought just came to my mind. So then, if the transient thing exists, would it make sense to have the model present a higher starting wage with decreased steps up to get the young, good, to try to get young stars, with the thought that they're probably going to leave someday, but we want to get them here for their first 10 years?
You mean have a higher base wage?
Where we started teachers as high or higher than our neighbors, just so we could take our pick from the litter for the first 10 years, and then, in actuality, we'd have a young staff then that way, and maybe, maybe in the end, we'd end up having a less expensive payroll with a lot of younger, more promising teachers.
The only problem, or the main problem that we have, is we really can't do it without adjusting a handful of people, because we have 30% of our staff that were hired right post Act 10 that really should be. So if we increase the base wage to whatever, then we'd be increasing that population higher than a population that have taught here for 8 or 9 years, which is
one of the things that it would be a paradigm shift, but it would. And there would be repercussions, and we'd have to, deal with the effects of it. But I'm just saying that if we modeled our model, if our model was geared towards getting those, how would that play out? And how would that look over 10, 20 years? Because we've got people coming and going anyway. It doesn't matter how long they've been here. The transient situation's occurring. Well, if that's going to happen, well, let's start those teachers off. It's just a thought that I had that I'd throw out.
Yeah.
You're a professional, and that's just, take it for what it's worth, I guess.
Yeah, I think what we're having now is we're starting to get more and more of a discrepancy in pay, even internally. We've been people that have been coming in, hiring, some we've had to match salaries, and even the ones that we've had where we, decreased their salaries, from where the district that they're coming from is at a higher rate than some of our ones that have been here. So I just feel like there's so many different pieces to this puzzle that every decision that you make impacts something else. And I like the idea. I mean, I'd love to create the higher base wage to try to draw some interest and compete. But I really think then we'd be creating a bigger problem in the district than we already have, and I already feel like we already have a pretty big problem right now. So, one thing, when we're hiring newbies out of college, the in lieu of piece is huge, because that's an additional $5,000 that we, that they see right away, that we are able to negotiate with them and say, if you stay off your, if you're on your parents' insurance, you get an additional $5,000. That's not salary, but it's embedded within your salary, and it feels like salary when you're getting your paycheck. So that's definitely something that we want to keep. But I think right now this is our best solution to the problem that we have. It's just not a long-term fix. I think this would be, we'd still be able to get a base wage that's competitive with the surrounding districts, but then we're also going to be bumping some individuals up. And the thing that, kind of a bummer I think if we'd have created this and not told anybody and been, secret about it and then just met with individuals to say, hey, this is your increase for this year, we'd have a ton of people that were thrilled, but because we're trying to adjust the teacher compensation model, the hopes were that higher than, than what we can produce for them. And I think there was a level of disappointment, I think, when we presented, which we talked about and we knew was going to happen, but we wanted to be transparent with it and, continue to talk through that we're meeting and trying to create something that, like I said, our goal at the beginning was to create something that people could see that we were making an effort, but not necessarily be thrilled with. And I think that's what we did. So.
Hats off to you, Josh. It looks like you went through a lot of work here.
Yeah.
And had some fun and not so fun conversations along the way and accomplished your goal, hopefully, with the better part of the staff.
Yeah, and honestly, I really appreciate the staff, the teaching staff. They were able to be honest and talk through it and, bring up concerns and, the what if type thing. So anyway, that's what we have. So looking for board approval on the compensation model for the 21-22 school year.
All right, I'll entertain that motion.
Unless you guys had any other questions with it.
So I'm kind of looking at this pie chart. So a little bit less than a third, you're saying that we're doing pretty competitive with the 0 to 5 year range, right? So a third of our staff is sitting pretty good
Yep.
with area schools.
Yeah.
And obviously the 16 plus, about the third too. But you're saying our biggest problem is the 6 to 10 years
Yeah.
with the most discrepancy. But that's a pretty high percentage too in our
Yeah.
pie chart.
A high percentage and a high discrepancy.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, what did you ask?
I'm just trying to think through this 16 plus, 0 to 5, a third of our staff is good. 16 plus years, which is a little bit closer to the actual third, we'll retire out maybe in 10 years. Then we'll start them back and then, we're going to have I'm trying to think, we're going to have a great chunk retiring within 5-10 years. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, probably, yep.
So then we're building them back in at our good base. And not that we don't have to build the middle up at the same time, but I think we're kind of building what you're saying because of where our teaching staff is in their years. You know what I'm saying? Because we're going to retire out a third of our
The
staff.
attrition's going to fix
Right,
some
because
of
our high attrition is going to build what you're saying without doing that.
Mhm.
Know what I'm saying with that?
I do.
Yeah, you're right.
And I think with referendum, I would say our first goal really has to be to fix that 6 to 10 years group and get people to where they should be. And
Well-
then pull in some of those additional extras. But if we don't ever get people right on that chart,
In that
we
middle,
really
yeah.
didn't do our original goal.
Yeah, because you think about the 0 to, I'm sorry, not the 0, but like the 6 to, this is just a ballpark, but like 6 years to like 10 years, you're looking at like about 15 staff members. So even if you just increase that group of staff those staff members, at like 2.5%, that's $15,000. So if you, it's hard to adjust that group of people accordingly because it's a lot of money.
They're that far off. And the only reason the 0 to 5 aren't that far off is because we were forced to pay them more off the
To get-
get-go.
Yeah, because the base wage kind of adjusts, and then you bring them in on that same base wage spot.
Well, now is our opportunity as we go through this. If we want to think of some paradigm shifts, we can. If not, I think this plan to get us to the referendum makes sense. I think it makes 20/20 hindsight and thinking maybe we should have just did this and just presented it. I don't know. I think the transparency piece that they, going through the pains with the teachers is going to be, I think, valuable
Sure.
going forward. So anyway, I'll entertain a motion unless anyone's got any other questions.
Is it?
Okay.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I'm good. Oh, to make the motion? I move to approve of the 2021-2022 teacher compensation model.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the 21-22 teacher compensation model. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, next item of business is the approval of our 2021 budget revisions.
So this is no change. This was due to the Fund 39, the refinancing piece again. So we put out a notice, and you'll be able to see in the columns what the revisions are. So it's specific to Fund 39, the previous approved amount was $685,609, and then the amended approval amount was just a hair over $1 million. So the change is $369,367.
And what does that number represent, Josh?
That is the changes to the Fund 39 account due to the referendum.
Oh, from
In a
the,
I'm sorry, not referendum. I got referendum. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, there was extra funds, so we paid down debt.
okay,
So that's what that is.
there we go.
Got referendum on the brain. Sorry. Due to the refinancing.
All right, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the 2020-21 budget revision.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded to approve the 2021 budget revision. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes. The next item of business is the Gator purchase.
Yep, so I should have put Bobcat, so that was my fault on the, I wasn't sure if there, I didn't know as far as the difference between the actual Bobcat and the Gator. So this was the quote for the Bobcat. I knew what it was.
One's a reptile.
Yeah. So this is, we purchased the Gator, that gets used a ton. Then we were looking at, what can we purchase to do kind of all of the things that we need to do with the plowing. One of the main things is anytime we have something that's purchased by the district where we need a skid loader, we have to borrow someone's, and we're just lucky enough to have people in the district that own those, and then they bring them over. And so this would be one way to eliminate that as well, to take that where we don't have to borrow the skid loader. So this is really one of those, it'll be a multi-purpose tool, but two of the main things that we'll be using it for plowing too, and some of the sidewalks. We've had a couple damaged areas with using the truck because of the large space, the truck, and this gives them the ability to get into some of the smaller sidewalk scenarios. So they wanted this for a while with the ESSER fund money. This would be a brand new purchase. It's not a replacement purchase. I think the cost is about $80,000, but because we're a public school district, we can get it for $44,000, and that includes the attachments. We have the pallet fork, a 60-inch snow V-blade, and then also gives us the ability to have an attachment on the back for some of the stuff. We use that for the Gator as well for I think putting seed out and spreading different things on the fields. So total cost would be $44,086.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the Bobcat purchase.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded to approve the Bobcat purchase. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Motion passes. The next item of business is the approval of board policy 0143.2 board member information requests.
Okay, so these policies were tabled last board meeting. We got a couple of them. So the first one is the board member information requests. You guys wanna talk through that policy, or are there any questions?
I'd like to start by saying I wish that we had this concise of a board policy a number of years ago when we
Yeah.
had board members trying to get information. It made it a lot easier on the administrator at that time, but
Sure. And I think that, it's kind of nice to have this in writing too, just for everyone's sake, and no better time to do it than when you have a high-functioning board. So, any questions with that one, or things to revise?
all right. then. Do we want to go ahead and approve that one? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the board member information request policy.
So,
I'm probably in second to approve board policy 143.2. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next board policy for approval is 144.5, board member behavior and code of conduct. Have you guys had a chance to read this ahead of time, or do you want some time to read it now?
I'm reading it right now. Did you read it ahead?
These aren't new.
I had to, I thought it was pointing towards me.
In the board
Are these
stuff.
already in there?
These are the ones
These-
that,
Are you reminding us we should be doing this?
yeah, but
I know, I'm like-
No, so this
Did you get a phone
one,
There's a
call?
hidden agenda. I didn't hear it.
That's why I read them ahead of time.
this one, the only thing taken out is the second page in red.
yeah. The crossed out part, the
Yep.
second page were not read.
Yep.
Good with it.
Yeah.
It was good.
And this one's pretty straightforward
Just
too.
wanted to make sure I.
I know. Good thing they took out that highlighted part.
I move to approve board policy 0144.5.
Second.
Properly moved and double seconded to approve board policy 144.5. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And then the next board policy is 145.
Okay, so this one, the first two paragraphs are new, or additions to the policy
All the additions came.
from Neola, yeah. So but this one has like the first and second paragraph, and then the fifth paragraph are all brand new verbiage that was added.
obviously.
Okay, we just give it that one?
I move to approve board policy 0145.
Second.
Been probably moved and seconded to board policy 145. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next, board policy is 1211, whistleblower protection.
And this one is a new policy, so it was included in the packet from last month, but it's a new policy to Neola.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve board policy 1211.
Second.
It's been probably moved and seconded to approve 1211. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. And now the last one, 2522, libraries.
So this one is a new policy as well.
I do have one question. Sorry. I did email you earlier. Is A and E, A through E, getting taken out of that policy?
Yeah, A through F, like they have a line on them, or are you checking that they are part of the policy?
A through H, you mean?
Yeah, A through H.
Oh, so those are to be selected.
Okay. So each one of these is a goal.
Yep.
Okay.
That-
We should take those out. They're the old goals, right?
A through E or all of them?
A through E. If it's the copy I had earlier.
Ours is A through H.
H.
Yeah.
Marcy, do you have a copy? Do you want to see it?
And we could take out
Here
the,
you go. I sneezed over here.
Yeah, A through H. I was just consulting with DPI, and she said if we have A through H in there, it's illegal, and we could get in trouble. Just because who's gonna say that it's good literature, or, it's very
Subjective.
subjective, to foster the love of reading. She just said it looks good other than that area. We could table it if you want, I could do some more research, but she said.
To remove that part, just to make it so it's not,
Yeah, I can table it and I can get her, I can bring more information if you'd like, but she said with A through H in there, I wouldn't approve it, she said.
and I would argue that it wouldn't be illegal by any means. But the district's goal to support and enrich the district standards and benchmarks to provide for personal interests.
Yeah, I don't see anything illegal about any of these.
No.
I just think they'd be, if somebody questioned it, it's hard to prove that we've really fostered a love of reading. I mean, outside of surveying.
well, can we table it? And,
Why would
or,
we have goals anyway in a policy?
I have no
Right.
issues with taking that, the sentence beginning with the major goals of the district. If
I
we
was
were,
wondering if those were the old policies that were made by Clear Lake prior, and then Neola put them in there.
no, these
No,
are
these
specific
are-
to Neola.
They've researched them. Because these have already had a legal review with
Yeah.
NOLA.
Yeah, these are
So-
all.
So if we approve this policy, then Marcy needs to figure out how to measure every one of these goals?
Yeah.
Love reading meter.
Yeah.
Well, let's just do this one next time again. It won't take long to put it on the agenda for next time, if you guys want to look at it and discuss it.
Okay.
And then we can move on and get home. So we're gonna move to, can I have a motion then to table it, or can we just go ahead and move that?
Just table it. We'll just
Alright.
table it.
Alright, and the next item of business is the superintendent notes.
Okay. We've been here long enough, so I don't really have much other than what I shared at the beginning of the meeting. Things are continuing to go well, and we're continuing to do what we said we were doing with opening things up and having field trips, and fingers are crossed for the end of the year stuff that we have going on with the different track meets and kindergarten track meet and elementary track meet, the 6th grade graduation, the senior graduation. So yeah, we're hopeful, and the end is near here for the school year. So things have been going really well, and I really do want to just say I appreciate all of the staff and the students' response to the options of masks. One thing is, I think for certain, that we have a great district here in Clear Lake. We have not had any issues where we've dealt with bullying or kids feeling like they are being ostracized due to the mask. I think we've, I think it was, it took a little bit of a while, so there was some processing time where we, were able to communicate. It wasn't a surprise to anybody, so that helped. But I think our kids and our staff have done an excellent job, making sure that everyone feels comfortable and with whatever choice that they're choosing to make with the mask. So that's all I had.
Yeah, well, thanks Josh for getting us through all that. There's still quite a few waves coming from Amy right now, and it's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah.
But I think we made the right decision. So, anyway, the next item of business is the contemplated closed session in accordance with WSS 19.85, paragraph 1C, considering employment compensation or performance data of any public employee over which the government body has jurisdiction or exercise responsibility. Tonight we're going to be talking about approval of consideration of employment. I will now poll. I know. I will do a roll call. Christie?
Yep.
Ryan?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Eddie?
Yes.
All right. Everybody here that needs to be here. We're in closed session. We're back in open. So the next item of business is future agenda items. Anybody have anything they want to put on next meeting's agenda? Okay, except for the board policy 2522, whatever you want to do with that, Josh.
Sounds good.
And then the next item of business is me asking for a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
And properly moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Hi.
All opposed.